Right, hello. Well, welcome back to the channel. I know it's took a while for me to do the next one, but next vid, but it's just takes time, and life kind of like throws at you whatever it does. So tonight, I'm going to talk about give you some ghosty stories from Plas Teg. If you've never heard of Plas Teg, Plas Teg is a country house, mansion house type place in the UK, and it's between Wrexham and Mould, in a place called Plas Teg. It took 4 years to build. The work started in 1606 and was completed in 1610 by a politician called Sir John Trevor the First, from a place called Trevernham Hall, which is just down in Rossett, just further down the way. And I did off and on 10 years doing Sunday tours there, because I have a fascination with history and old buildings. By trade I'm a brickie, and we got into the place because I was in a ghosty club, ghost team, paranormal investigation team, and we got to meet Cornelia that way, the owner of the property, and I just loved the history, so I decided that I wanted to go and do the Sunday tours, so I learnt the Sunday tours. So it's one of the most haunted places that I've been in. Like I say, probably 95% of everything that I witnessed there was on a Sunday afternoon. In the time that I was there, I saw 3 apparitions. The first one was on the very first night that we went there. The public weren't there. I think it was a Saturday night or a Friday night or something like that. And we went to meet Cornelia, and our team that I was working with at the time, we were going to take on the entertainment evenings. I think people call them paranormal investigations, entertainment nights. So the first night we're there, just as we were leaving, 4 of us were standing at the bottom of the stairs, and we're talking, and the person that was standing, I had my back to the stairs, and the person I was talking to said, "My God, look at that." And as I turned around, there was basically a black mass, the head shape, shoulders, and it went down, and that was it. There was no arms, legs, and we stood back and we watched it sort of float down the stairs to the bottom landing, turn down the 3 steps, turn left again, and walk down the side of the staircase, and there was a door to the right, but this thing just went straight through the wall, and we were like, now that was, we were just like, oh my God, that was just nothing caught on camera, we were just there. Anyway, I found out later on, probably about 12 months later, that the wall that this ghost or apparition, whatever it was, that went through the wall, there was actually a doorway there originally, and you can see that on the other side of the wall, on the outside of the building, where you can see where it's been patched up. The stonework had been patched up, so there was definitely a door there. So the second one happened probably about 6 months later. 2 of the most kind of like rooms that you get most activity in. Like, you get activity anywhere in Plas Teg, anywhere, it doesn't matter. But the 2 rooms that you sort of guaranteed that you'll get activity in is one room that's called the Regency Room, which is on the top floor, and if you look at the building, it's over on the right at the back. And the other one is what's called the panelled room. And now we know that this room was Sir John Trevor's room, and one of the reasons why we know this is the house was built in 1610. In 1696, the king brought out a window tax, so a lot of the windows had been bricked up in Plas Teg. Many houses of that era, you'll come across it. But there was, as you look at the building, on the left-hand side, the turrets side, the top bedroom, and the room below, which is Cornelia's library and private quarters. They're the only two rooms with turret rooms with all three windows on each side, all open. So we know, we've got a feeling that there, on the top floor, that was his bedroom. So anyway, over to the Regency room. I think I was dowsing or something in the Regency room. There was a few of us, and as I looked up, standing over by the bed, there was a woman standing there looking at me, which was quite weird. Was because one thing, I could see through her. Second thing, she had no legs. I could only see from the waist up, and she stood there, and it lasted for about 2 seconds, and she just disappeared. And I'm like, look, fucking hell, look. So that's the other, that's the second one. And the third one must have been probably about 5 years later. I turned up on the Sunday, around about 1:30. Tour started at 2. And about 1:45, my phone rings, and we're all in the main hall. So I said, I'm going to answer the phone. So I answered the phone, and I walked through the curtain to where the staircase is. And as I looked to my left, there's 3 steps of the stairs, and then a landing area, and that goes into the morning room. And about 6 foot into the morning room, there was a woman standing there. She had a pair of jeans on. I can't tell you what was on her feet. And she had a blue hoodie. She had bobbed hair, dark brown bobbed hair. And she sort of looked at me, turned, and walked off into the room. And I'm on the phone, and I thought, who's that? I don't recognise her. She was probably mid-30s, I suppose. Quite slim. So I walked up the steps into the morning room, not a soul there, and she was as real as I'm sitting here. That's how she looked. So that's a bit of a strange one. At that time, I was really used to Plas Teg, but that was the third and only 3 apparitions that I ever saw in the place. So there's 3 there. But loads of weird things used to go on there. It was winter, cold. Plas Teg's a very cold place. There's no heating in the place at all. And we'd done the tours, and I'm with Nikki. Nikki was the lady that I learned most of the tour from, as much as like put my own information on the stuff that I was looking at. So what we would do, once everyone was gone, we'd go round the house, turn all the lights out. You know, it's 3 stories, lots of rooms, 9 or 10 bedrooms, lots of little rooms off. So we'd go round, we turn on the first floor, turn all the lights off in there. So what we'd do then is go up onto the top floor. Now, to get to the top floor, you walked up the main staircase to the first floor. When you get to the top of the staircase, you turn left, and there was a door in the corner. You go through that door, up 2 flights of stairs, and there was a long corridor, and that long corridor took you to the long gallery. You turn left into the long gallery. But as you got to the doorway, the door in front of you on the other side of the long gallery was Sir John Trevor's bedroom. So we're walking along the corridor, Nikki's in front of me, and we just get to the door, and we hear the door of Sir John Trevor's bedroom, the panelled room, we hear it slam. Somebody slams it from the inside, pushes the door, slams it. And Nikki's like, there's someone in the house. I'm like, okay, we'll just go in and see who it is. We walked into the room, and there's not a sausage in there, not a soul in there. We walked into the turret room where the 3 windows are all open. No, none of them have been bricked up. There's nobody in there. There's nobody under the bed. We checked. There was absolutely nobody in there. And at this point, Nikki's getting a little bit. She's getting a little bit edgy now. She's like, "What's going on?" But as we walked in there, you just got a feeling of they don't want us in here. So we went down to the other end of the long gallery, turned all the lights off, and went back into the panelled room, Sir John Trevor's bedroom. And she's like, "Wonder what that was?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "Well, the Plas Teg's got the reputation of ghosts, hasn't it?" So I said, "It could be anything. The wind could have took it, you don't know." And I said, "Anyway, we'll turn the lights off and we'll head out." She said, "Well, I'm not going out there. There's bloody ghosts out there." I said, "Tell you what, I'll go out first." And so we turn the lights off. I walk out into the long gallery. Nikki is behind me. As she's closing the door is about 6 inches before it shuts, and somebody slams it from the inside, pushes it. At this point, Nikki is hysterical. She's shitting herself. And she said, "I've got to get out of here, we've got to get out." So I had a quick look in. I knew there was nobody there. And she held my hand all the way down. My knuckles were white. She was holding onto my hand that much. And so strange things happen. A lot of people get touched there. Another one with Nikki. It's so funny. There's a part of the building that we call the mezzanine part, where, because the ground floor, I think the ceiling's about 20 foot high, so what they've done is made 2 stories out of 1. And we come down the steps. This was all changed in the early 1900s, this part of the building. And we go down the steps and the stairs, and on the last landing, Nikki stopped, and there was a woman standing next to her, and there was a guy and another woman, and the rest of us were around watching Nikki's doing so. And the next minute she stopped and she said, she looked at the guy next to her, and she said, "You just touched me up." And he looks at her, he said, "I didn't." He looked at his wife, and she looked at him, and he's like, "I didn't." "Well, somebody touched me," she said. And she looked at me, she said, "Danny, did he touch me?" I said, "No, he was standing there listening to you with his arms crossed." He said, "He didn't touch you. I know he didn't." She said, "Well, who touched me then?" Work it out for yourself. A lot of people got touched there, quite regularly. You could guarantee somebody would get touched. I've been kissed on the cheek once. Halfway through the tour, I'm standing there talking about whatever I was talking about, and I felt a kiss on my cheek. And I looked at the guy next to me who had a big beard. I thought it was definitely not him. These things happen. People get touched. Kids used to get touched, but only in 2 places, and that was the elbow and the ankle. I mean, small kids, probably from 6 to 12 or something like that. And over 10 years, I sort of noticed this pattern, that it was probably 1 in 5 times, every 5th time or something like that, when the kids would be with their families and stuff, one of them would always come over at the end and say, "Oh, my daughter or my son got touched on the elbow or the ankle." And this was happening all the time. The kids always got touched on the elbow and the ankle. I've been pushed. I've been stroked my arm. Someone's kind of like touched me on the chin. People get touched. There was a time where I used to go into what was called the green room, and I used to tell sort of ghosty stories there. It's the same thing that I'm kind of like talking about now. And what would happen is some people would stay behind as they would go. The whole group would go out and up the stairs, up onto the long gallery, and have a look around. But people would always kind of like hold back, and sometimes they had a story to tell, or they'd ask particular questions about particular things. And this couple probably about my age. We were chatting. She said, and the two of them said, we've never experienced anything like you've talked about, being touched or like seeing apparitions and stuff like that. And they were just asking my opinion and stuff like that. I said, well, it's Plas Teg. Anything can happen here, really. It's, you know, can be proper haunted at times. Anyway, go round to finish the tour, and I'd always finish the tour in the kitchen. And I'd say to the people then, I said, if you'd like, you can go down and have a look in the cellar. There's loads of bits and bobs in there. Cornelia hoards a lot of stuff, like, you know. And they all went out, and what I'd do then, I'd wait in the main hall, and as people were coming out, I could keep my eye on anyone straying off from where they shouldn't be going or anything like that. And I would kind of like thank them for coming, please come again, stuff like that. Anyway, the last people out of the cellar was this couple that I'd been talking to in the green room. And the lady come out with this big, massive smile on her face, and she says, I've had an experience. I said, well, go on then. So what happened? So she said, we were in the cellar. She said, and the room to the right. I said, yeah. She said, I was in there and I thought my husband was behind me, and I thought he'd grabbed hold of my bum. And I turned around and looked, and my husband was in the doorway looking the other way, and there was nobody else in the room. This had made her day completely. She was absolutely, she'd had an experience. So, but people touched and what have you all the time. So, orbs. We used to see orbs there. Now, orbs are associated with haunted places. They're associated with them. We don't know why. And the reason why I say we don't know why is because we've never actually caught one to analyse it. So when people will tell you and they know exactly what it is, if it's, oh, it's spirit energy and stuff like that, it's no, we don't know what they are. It's as simple as that. One's never ever been caught to analyse to find out what it is. We can assume, we think we know what it is, but it isn't. I've only ever seen one orb in Plas Teg, and that one in the main hall downstairs, a yellow orb by the size of a tennis ball come from out the fire, went low across the floor, then went about 8-10 foot, and as it was going up in the air, it sort of got smaller and smaller and smaller and disappeared. We didn't get it on camera. So real orbs do exist, and I'm not talking about the ones on your digital cameras and your phones and stuff, because it's been proved that they are them orbs. There's a science. If you go and have a look at a website called Parascience, and I think the article's called Orbs Are a Load of Old Balls or something like that, parascience.co.uk I think it is. I'll rummage around and put the link below. So the science is there. We know what these orbs are off cameras and stuff like that. Real orbs, it's a completely different thing. And I've only ever witnessed one, but most people who go there regularly have witnessed one of these orbs at some point. So one day, one Sunday afternoon, I'm there, the public come in, and there's a young woman, late teens, with a mum and dad and a boyfriend, I assume it was. And I heard her saying, well, I don't actually believe in ghosts, but I'd believe one if I saw one. And I thought, well, you just jinxed yourself lovely, because something will probably happen. And it did. So halfway around the tour, we're up on the long gallery. I'm in the Regency room talking to people, and they had wandered off over to the other side, and they're standing in Sir John Trevor's bedroom, and she sees a white orb come from underneath the bed and go through the wall. Well, she screams, it's like, my God, panic gone. Go down, what have you seen? I saw an orb, it's a ghost. And I said, well, no, it's not a ghost. We don't know what they are, but yes, they're associated with haunted places, but we don't know what they are. They're energy balls of some kind that are very, well, we don't know anything about them, basically. So if someone says, oh, it's spirit energy, well, we don't know, you know. So, one more thing. I get a phone call, because I used to live a couple of miles away from Plas Teg. I got a phone call from Mark, and he says, listen, Cornelia has locked herself out of the library. The library was the room that she lives in Plas Teg. It's, you go up to the top of the stairs, to the first floor, the building, the door to the right, and that was the old library, and that was her chambers, basically. So get a phone call from Mark. Can you pop down? Cornelia's locked herself out of her chambers. I said, no problem. So I went down there with all my tools in hand, thinking I'm going to have to break the door in and what have you. So she lets me in. We go upstairs. I got all my tools. I put them on the top. And next to the door is a little table with a set of keys on. I'm like, Cornelia, are these the keys? Yes, they are. She puts them in, opens the door. So I says, this, go and put the kettle on. I'll go and put my tools by the back door. So I follow her down with my tools. She goes through the old kitchen, which is now a dining room, into the house kitchen that she uses as her kitchen. I put my tools and everything by the back door. I turn around, I'm walking through the old kitchen, and I hear a gentleman cleared his throat, like, and I stopped. I thought, only in Plas Teg. These things, stuff like this used to happen all the time. You used to hear voices in the distance and stuff, or you could hear somebody, yeah. And my thought on that straight away was, thank God that Cornelia was in the kitchen. She didn't hear whoever cleared their throat, because then she would have been worried that there was somebody in the house. So that was my thought. Thank God she didn't hear it. And I just had another experience. So, and one day, it was one of the last, probably the last year, or the last couple of years before I finished there. One day, I'm doing the tour. I'm telling ghost stories in the green room, and next minute I hear Cornelia shouting Danny. And what would happen if people got there a little bit earlier, she'd kind of like put them on the end of the tour and they'd come around again, what have you. So, and everyone heard her shouting. So there was a woman, Amy, who was helping us at the time, and she said, I'll go down and find out what she wants. Yeah, no problem. About 10 minutes later, Amy comes back. She said, she's right down the other end of the property, right down the bottom. And she hasn't been in the house since the tour started. I said, well, who was shouting me? She said, we haven't got a clue. I said, did everyone hear a woman shouted Danny? And they were like, yeah, we did. So things like that would happen all the time. So that's a little bit about Plas Teg. Thanks for listening, and we hope to get a vid out to you soon. So thanks again. See you later. Be good.